All right, we are now live, and let's see, we've got attendees coming in. Welcome. I'm going to wait a couple minutes. It looks like it's taking them a bit to load. And here we go. Hi, everybody. We're going to wait just a moment while everybody is getting in. And all right. Okay, it looks like it's kind of slowed down on the loading in. And welcome everybody this is our inaugural event of the School of English and Humanities School Week at Midlands Tech. Happy to have everybody with us. We've got a great lineup tonight to let y'all know about some of our certificates. I do want to start out by just saying the School of English and Humanities includes, obviously, the English and Humanities departments. We have faculty members who offer gen ed courses in a huge range of disciplines: art, English, foreign languages, speech, music, theater, religion, philosophy, history, and students across many programs of study at the college take courses offered by our faculty in those areas. As starting in fall of 2021, we do have 4 Associates in Arts concentrations. Some of y'all may know Midlands before had a large AA and a large Associates in Arts, large Associates in Science. In fact, Brandon, I think, Dr. Glover, I think when you were here, that's the way it was at Midlands. But now we have specific pathways, and in the English and Humanities School, we have Art Studio, English, history, and writing pathways. So I will definitely want y'all to know about those. Tonight, what we also now have under the school organization at Midlands Tech are our certificate programs that are associated with the School of English and Humanities. One of the things I've been talking about for the School of English and Humanities in our School Week celebration is that a lot of our courses, a lot of the work students and faculty do is in celebration of narrative, the power of narrative, the power of story. It communicates, it persuades, it makes us feel. And so these certificates are absolutely, the work that they do is also about that power of narrative, that power of bringing people along, bringing people into the story. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We were still waiting on Becky Garnett, and I'm not seeing Becky quite yet. We've got some folks saying hello in chat. Hi, everybody. I do want to point out that we've got our Q&A. You should see Q&A in addition to chat, and that's where you can ask questions that we will come around to at the end. So you can follow up with these wonderful panelists on some of the things that they're going to talk about this evening. Good evening, panelists. And yeah, thanks for being with us. And I know took some doing to be with us this evening in some cases. So I'm just going to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself, say a bit about your role in your business, what you do. And I'm going to start with Mr. Matheson, who's coming to us, by the way, from Nashville, not here in Columbia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jay Matheson. I'm working an audio gig in Nashville for about 4 days. So I had to get somebody to cover for me a little while to come be with you guys on the webinar. I basically have been in the audio business for more years than most of you guys have been alive, I'm sure. And most well known, for running the Jam Room recording studio where I've been making records and stuff for a long time. For 15 years, we've been doing the Midlands Audio Institute, which is our certificate program in audio engineering for Midlands Tech. And of course, we do everything from live sounds to beat making to studio recording and music business.
Great, thank you so much. Dr. Jones, photography and videography, you're up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. My name is Thaddeus Jones. I am the owner of Fanatic Productions, the CEO of 5 Element Studios. I am also the program director at the Nickelodeon Theater at downtown Columbia, as well as the director of Indie Grits Labs here in Columbia. Most of my concentration, I've been a photographer since high school. Got into filmmaking when I moved to Columbia. I was into it before, but just didn't have an outlet. And as I kind of went through my bachelor's degree, I was taken in by the film bug. And so I started making short films. And when I started, they were very, very bad. But I quickly, learned how to tell a story. And that was the key to unlocking some of the craft of filmmaking is, understanding that it's all about storytelling. Even with photography, it's all about storytelling. So I've been doing this, oh my goodness, as a photographer since since high school. But as a filmmaker, seriously, since about 2007, 2008. So, and I love, talking with students and helping them find their path to video and photography.
Oh, that's great. Now, I know from looking at your website, Dr. Jones, that you're connected with local indie horror in particular. So that's going to come up later, but I just want to put that out there because I would imagine we have a lot of horror fans in the audience. So I want to put that out there.
All
Dr.
right.
Glover, last but not least.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Glover. Like Dr. Grego mentioned earlier, I am an alumni of Midlands Technical College, class of 2007 from the Associate in Arts program. Have a very similar path of Dr. Thaddeus Jones's. We both graduated media arts degree from the University of South Carolina. We both got a master's degree at film school, Full Sail University from Winter Park, Florida. And we both have doctorate degrees from North Central University. So we've been on very similar paths. I am the editing instructor here for the CCE, Corporate and Continuing Education. I teach predominantly Adobe Premiere, which is a part of the Creative Cloud. Some of you may be familiar with Photoshop and Lightroom and things of that nature. Premiere is a part of that family, After Effects. So I teach specifically Premiere, but most of the concepts that I do teach can carry over into like Final Cut, Blackmagic, DaVinci, and software studios and such. So.
Wow. Well, that kind of is a nice segue into the next question. And Mr. Matheson, I'm going to start with you. So for the viewers who are out there who are not familiar with your areas and for whom some of the programs that Dr. Glover just mentioned might be Greek. Right? So thinking about that generic viewer out there, Mr. Matheson, I'm going to start with you. What would a student in audio engineering, what would they learn how to do?
Well, ever since I started teaching, it's got broader and broader. Obviously, with COVID, it's actually opened up a whole new window because, churches and things like that are having to, produce for the web and such. So initially, we thought we would get a lot of church sound engineers, and we do. But we have a lot of people that want to like start their own studio. Some people just want to get a job. And as somebody that's works for Midlands Tech, I mean, we're all about helping people become employable. So, types of jobs that they can get is for like local sound companies, production companies. Of course, some people have started their own studios. and just general entrepreneurship. One of our our ex-students that graduated, he's making a living in the music business in Nashville, and he contacted me, wants to try to catch up while we're in town. But I guess, and then of course, we were talking before about, audio for video. We definitely teach people how to do audio for film, movies, ads, things like that. And of course, there's the whole beat making thing of, music production that you sell the music, which can go for a lot of money too. So there's both getting employed and, starting your own business. You can do things full-time, part-time, you can travel the world, or you can stay here in town and work,
Wow. Yeah, I was listening to a report last week. They were talking about the tremendous growth of podcasts, and I know that that's Dr. Jones's and Dr. Glover's area. But Mr. Matheson, where I thought about you is some of the most popular podcasts right now are simply about the audio. They're about people reading names and mood music, and nothing, no content. It's completely audio, and that speaks to that power of sound, right? To draw us in, to soothe us, right? And all of that. And what I hear you saying is the audio, the uses of that spans the range from personal to professional interest, and across the part-time, full-time. Are people in audio engineering, are they doing freelance kinds of work as well, or in addition to like the church Sunday, kind of the person running the church meeting?
Well, freelance would be somebody that would say, get a gig at a venue and say that there would be work shows, or some people do union stuff and work big shows at the, we had a bunch of students go there, or we routed a lot of them over to the Colonial Center. And that's kind of freelance work for sure. Working shows, whether it's at small, music venues or those sort of gigs. Other sort of freelance work is where you start a studio at your home.
Gotcha.
So I even had one of my ex-students is now in charge of audio for all the sporting events. And she was calling me, asking me if I had time to come over there and do sound for a volleyball game. I was like, that sounds like a cool gig. But something like that, I mean, that pays money. They probably pay to work a volleyball gig. You might go over there and make $150 a night. And same with any evening that you go out and work a real pro gig, you're going to, even if it's on the side of your day job, a lot of people do it on the side,
Absolutely. We have Becky Garnett joining us. Yay. Wonderful. Hi, Beck. Hi, Ms. Garnett. How are you this evening?
Oh, sorry about that.
That's
Glad
okay. We're gonna loop you in and pick you up, and just sort of I'm gonna loop you in here and just let everybody know who you are and what your role is.
Sure. I'm Becky Garnett. I'm a program director in corporate and continuing education, and work with these instructors that are on tonight in the areas of audio engineering, video editing, and photography and videography, along with several other programs in what we call our creative careers.
Oh, creative careers. I like the sounds of that.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue. We were just talking about kind of what students in these courses would be doing. And I'm going to go next to Dr. Jones. So what would students in your photography, videography, what would they be learning how to do, Dr. Jones?
So in the photography and videography course, we start off with the very basics. So we walk you through the settings, how to set up your camera correctly, all of the basic things that you need to know, the basic functions, aperture, ISO, how to make sure, how to adjust those things in your camera, how to adjust shutter speed within your particular camera. And once we get a handle on that, because that's most of the lecture stuff, but then we start getting into some of the things that you need to know about composition, about flash photography. And a lot of times students don't understand how this relates to videography to segue into videography. But many of them will be doing video on what we call DSLRs, or digital single lens reflex cameras. And those cameras are both, they serve two purposes. They can, most of them are more than adequate at photography. And then some of them also function very well in the video format that allows you to have some flexibility to be able to record different, events, short films, commercials, and things of that nature. So what I try to do is walk them through the basics first so that they get a real handle on how to adjust their cameras, how to get the images that they're looking for. And then later on in the course, we start talking about composition and how those things line up, how to make the audience, whoever the audience is, see what you see as a photographer or as a videographer, and how to, move the camera in a way that elicits the response that you're looking for. And some students do get frustrated early on because it's not moving very fast, and they may know some of this stuff, or they think they know some of this stuff, and they do have some knowledge of it, but a lot of them are taking photos on auto, and that's not the same thing. We start from a manual position, and I walk you through everything that you'll need to know to go out there and be successful with any camera that you pick up. And though you'll have a learning curve on where those things may be inside the menu of any particular camera, you will know what they do, know how to adjust them, and know how to get the look out of a camera that you're trying to get. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, to tell that story through those images. And that's the big part of composition. How do you tell that story and lead the eye? But then we also cover the business aspect. We talk about copyrights. We talk about how to protect your IP. We talk about how to interact with clients and how to protect yourself and your client. I mean, we really have a comprehensive look at the whole industry in a very short amount of time if you're going to be working as a freelance photographer or videographer.
Gotcha. Well, I know that among the 20-somethings that my daughter's generation, there's a lot of interest in freelance photography and videography, particularly around events, around weddings, around engagements. I bet you must have students cycling through your courses who have some of those kinds of interests.
Absolutely. Every class we have at least one or two that want to do event photography or wedding photography. And we definitely cover some best practices for wedding photography, some best practices for events. But the number one thing that they come to realize is that, as a freelancer, it's a lot of work involved, and you have to really understand what it is that I share some of my horror stories with them because I've learned through trial by fire a lot of times. And I share with my students a lot, about why it's important to set your white balance, and why it's important that that's one of the first things you check as you go into an event. Those little tips and tricks that hopefully they can learn from and not have to make the mistakes that I made starting out. And coming from a film photographer to a digital photographer, it was a little bit different and a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come back later and ask you what one of your biggest mistakes was, because that sounds like a good story. So
I got a list.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Matheson and Dr. Glover that as well. So because everybody likes hearing that others who are now experts, as y'all are, started in a different place, right? And made those mistakes. Dr. Glover, what are students going to be learning in your video editing? And I know you're teaching that right now. And in fact, some of your students are patiently, kind of waiting so you can be with us. But what are students picking up in that video editing course?
So kind of sounds the same as Dr. Jones, right? We started at a very basic level. One of the things that I tell my students on the first day of class is, hey, regardless of what experience you have, I want to treat you as if you've never done this, never seen it, never heard of it in your life. So basically we start with the very basics, such as or creating and organizing folders, labeling footage, importing footage into the software, cutting the footage, saving the project, and so on. So just your very basics of how do you create a project, how do you save the project, and then how do you do the basic functions within the project itself. And like I mentioned, we do use Adobe Premiere, which becoming an editor, you'll realize that a lot of the software is basically functions the same, right? So for any of you guys out there that may say, hey, I'm interested in the class, but I want to learn on Final Cut, the concepts are the same and you'll pick up on it pretty quick. But so the first 4 weeks is those very basic things that which I mentioned. And then what we try to do is transition into the certificate portion. So we do have a basic part where if students just want to come in and learn those very basic things that I mentioned, they can just do the 4 weeks and be done, right? You won't get a certificate, but you will have that that knowledge. And then for those who stay and do the certificate portion of it, we go a little bit further, such as adding effects, transitions, color correction, music overlays. This is where we start to take footage, take graphics, take music, take audio, and start to put it all together into something that's creative or professional, right? We do commercials, promos, things of that nature. So that's what we do. I'm a big narrative guy, so I like to cut scenes, but we do a little bit of
well, Dr. Glover, with the advent of YouTube, and then since COVID, everybody's doing video a lot more because of Zoom. Have you seen an increase in interest in video editing?
So I will say, not yet, but I got a big feeling I will. Yes. One of the things that I'm going to have to include into my curriculum now is Zoom editing. My biggest client actually has me cut more Zoom videos. He's a nonprofit, and a lot of the money that funnels into his company is from sponsors, right? So they're allocated these funds where they have to use it towards certain projects. This is one way y'all can get paid, guys, right? You learn how to edit, and you can literally make money editing what we're doing right now, which is very basic, very simple, but it pays.
Absolutely. Hey, we're talking already in our school week events, we're collecting all of these Zoom recordings and all this that we can download from Zoom. So we're going to have a lot of raw footage across these different school weeks. And of course, we would like to make use of that raw footage, but we need folks who have your skill set. So I can see that business is going to be coming your way for certain. It's just going to be a necessity.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, so I wanted to ask y'all if you had some examples of student work. And I think a couple of you at least did. I know, Mr. Matheson, you've got a sound sample, I think. Can you, I think you can share your screen and show that to us, or we can hear it?
Yeah, this is basically in our first studio recording class, the final project. We have studio recording 1, 2, and 3, and our goal at the end of studio recording 1 is to be able to, for everybody to make some sort of finished audio recording. And how good it is not so important, is that they actually get it done and turn it in. And the whole idea of a deadline and something's due and all, it was very new for a lot of them. A lot of them is stressful for them, but let me go to screen share. And what this one was, is a lot of them, they don't have a band or they don't sing, but this one guy played guitar. And I just ran across this one, and it's an example of just a very simple thing. So he got a beat that he imported, and then he played a couple of guitar tracks over it. And then somebody else might have a big grandiose song with 50 vocal tracks because they had more resources and such. So let's try a little screen share here and see if I can find the song again. Here it is. That's a quick taste of it. You know, that's just him, and you can hear the one guitar come in, then the kind of wah wah guitar come in, and students, you know, and some of them they don't, you know, they might have a friend come in a rap for them or something like that, or you know, they could do a full band thing. So we get all sorts of final projects. That was just something I stumbled across real quickly looking in an old folder of stuff from Studio Recording One.
Well, you know, it made me think about the kind of mood music that you hear in other kinds of product. So do the students learn how to do the audio in your class, and they then can use that audio in other Dr. Jones and Dr. Glover? Is that kind of how it works? Yes.
Ultimately, yes. That's what we're you know, we have a. I reached out to Jay earlier this year to get an intern for the Nickelodeon, and he sent us over a couple people, and one of them really just knocked it out of the park and fell right in with us. And in our short films, I'm always looking for someone who understands the concept of recording audio, but also when we go into the mix, and you know, I guess Dr. Glover can talk about that more, is getting that mood music for whatever it is that we're trying to make at the time, having it mixed right into what we've gotten, what we've already set up is, you know, a huge time saver. I'll let him talk.
Dr. Glover, is that learning? Is that a part of video editing? Is getting the background music or audio synced up correctly, etc.?
Absolutely, absolutely. I always tell my students and anybody that I'm having a conversation with about media is audio follows video. You know, we hear the term AV all the time. I don't know if people realize, but that stands for audio and video, right? So to me, the two are married. Like even if there's no vocal or dialogue, there's going to be, like you said, some background music, some undertone music, something to keep it going. I mean, music can save film. It literally can save a film. So yeah, it's absolutely important.
I would also add that music and audio in general, people will forgive a poorly shot video. A lot of times they can overlook that, but if the audio is off, you will find that people are less forgiving if the music, if the mouths do not sync with their track, and it looks like they're kind of doing something different, or the mood music doesn't set right. Like, people will get upset about that. So they really are. It really is a collaboration of people working at their highest skill level to marry something together to make it one cohesive thing with all these different parts.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Jones, I will ask you and Dr. Glover also about the kind of work students come out with in your class, and any examples. So Dr. Jones, I think you had talked, students do portfolios. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think all students are interested in, I know I talk with students all the time about creating that portfolio to show what your skill sets are, right? That you can take out to potential employers. You know, that's really an important thing to have. So
absolutely. I'll share some of my most recent students' work here, and then we'll talk about it, if that's okay with everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
So give me just 1 second. Let me pull that up, and I'll share that with you. I hope to be able to get students moving in a direction where we can get a video portfolio in the future as well, but that's something we could talk about later. Right now, what I have students doing is creating works that they can share as part of their, so these are all student images, and they can share as part of their portfolio. So we have this one. This was shot in our recent class. And then.
Oh, that was a really neat image.
Oh yeah, so this is a prolonged exposure image, where the student took I don't want to tell her secrets of how she did it, but it was a prolonged exposure, and she did it. I think she said she only did it 2 times, and this was the best of the 2. And we were talking about light writing in this particular portion of the class. And she asked me about how to, we went over it in class, and then she asked me what I thought about the settings for this. And I told her some general basic settings. And then she went and came back with this. And this is I think this is one of the best images I've seen in a long time from a student that really nailed something in action. And I've seen some other prolonged exposures, especially when we start talking about stars, like taking pictures of the stars, astrophotography. And I've had a couple students that have done that exceptionally well, but I haven't had anybody do something like this. So this was a very unique picture I wanted to share.
Very much so.
This one was from the same class of students. And this one is using a couple techniques. One is natural framing. So you see the boulder is acting as a frame, right? And then we have what we call a deep depth of field, because you can see clean all the way to the back in very high detail, the white caps of the mountains, some of the trees, the texture of the rock, right? So we're seeing quite a bit in this one image. And then another one was this one from another student. This is an example of macro photography, where you're really close onto a subject. You're getting the texture and detail, but you also have a shallow depth of field working here. If you notice that you can see the beads of the water on the first few leaves, but as you look deeper into the image, it starts to blur out just a bit. And that's what we call a shallow depth of field. And all of these things translate over into video. So I'll stop my screen share here. When we create a portfolio, what we are trying to get the students to create is a good variety of work that they can show to potential clients that may have something specific in mind. And we aren't mind readers, obviously, but what we want to be able to do is show that we are versatile and that we know how to capture images to deliver the goods for our clients. So we try to line, their portfolio is consisting of different images that show that, as well as composition.
Absolutely. Dr. Glover, do you have any student work to share? I know that you're in the middle of teaching a class, so y'all might not be there yet. Oh, you're muted, Dr. Glover.
Sorry about that. I have a couple of 30-second clips that I can show. Yeah. So let me share. Put this up. All right, so this particular video right here is just kind of a promo type. It's a waterboarding video, believe it or not. You'll see what it is. I use this all the time, especially at the beginning of my classes. So one of what I do is, because I don't expect my students to come in with any video knowledge or having shot anything themselves, I have what you call some stock footage. Adobe actually provides some footage to use for educational purposes. So I would give the students this footage and just they kind of do their own thing. So this is, both of these clips I'm going to show you integrates graphics, text, logos, and video footage. So it's kind of everything in one. So first one. So that's one. Like I said, that's kind of just kind of a promo, kind of have fun, be creative type video. And then I have another one which is more cinematic, which is my favorite thing to do. So
Well, the first one makes me want to go to the beach, but
well, hey, it serves a purpose, right? All right, so, yeah, Anna, here we go. All right, let's play this one. All right, yeah. Uh-oh, sorry guys. You would think after a year in COVID, I would learn how to do a screen share.
it's okay.
Get it. It disappeared on me. Oh, here we go. Share.
Here we go.
All right, and that was
Wow.
yep, that was from one of my students. And if you notice, every element that you saw, sound, did you hear how the audio drove both of those pieces? Two different feels, right?
Absolutely.
And two different looks as well, two different genres, but you could tell the audio really drove the mood of what we were going for. So that's the importance of audio.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, y'all are giving me a greater appreciation for all the many elements that have to be brought together in video, composition, audio, the lighting, all of those elements. I think we're all going to be more appreciative when we watch the Oscars awards in another couple of weeks, right? All right. Well, I did want to, I know, Mr. Matheson, I know you had, I was kind of thinking about, well, so what kind of studio, somebody might be in the audience thinking, well, what kind of equipment do I need to have? Does this require me, do these classes require me to have a lot of fancy equipment? What kind of facilities, et cetera. So Mr. Matheson, I was going to ask you to talk about that because I know a little bit about photography and videography, very little about audio engineering, but it seems like it does require a facility and equipment.
Yeah, I guess that's one reason we can teach these classes because we have the facility. And of course, most of the classes are in the classroom, but right next door to the classroom are several studios. One, the jam room is a big full service studio, and we'll look at a couple of pictures there. Why don't I go ahead and do a screen share? I got a picture of, we have we have a mastering studio, and we have the jam room, and we have the boom room that are all right there. The boom room is more of a vocal production studio, but I'll just show just a couple of pictures. And this is just the control room. I didn't know how much time we have, so I didn't bring a whole lot of pictures, but
That's
here
fine.
we go. This is like the mastering studio. It's right next to the classroom. And this is just a close up on the console. And you can see that we use Pro Tools as our primary platform. And you can see there's some analog gear there. So mastering is the process, after the recording is done. And then here's one of just the jam room. That's the main control room. And I think I have another picture of that. And we go over, we basically take field trips over to the studio, and you can see there's a big live room, and where we can show up how we mic up a drum set, and we take students in. Of course, with COVID, that's been tough. We had to break this class into very small groups and go in and do it. So it's limited us a little bit, but we still take our field trips to the other studios. And what we do is we also bring a lot of gear over to the classroom. This is just a random picture of some microphones, but this is representative of what I might just bring to class one night. I'll just grab, 7 or 8 microphones, and we'll talk a whole 2 hours just on microphones. So that's some of the gear that is just that we put hands on. Also, you know, we have a lab area, and that's for students that don't have Pro Tools or their own gear, so that they can. I'm not hearing you now.
I'm hearing
Okay.
you.
Maybe it was my I'm not have a hardwired connection here, so maybe I have a bad connection. But anyway, we have all the gear they need. So basically, the answer to the question is you don't need anything or any background in audio to do it, and it doesn't cost anything, like any books and stuff or in the tuition. But a lot of students do decide to get Pro Tools, and then luckily they'll get student discounts on that, which is half off of everything.
Hey, student discounts have been a big saver for me over the years.
Yeah, and for all the students, and they can get the Adobe Creative Suite discounted as well.
Everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Dr. Jones, and I'll throw it to you. Photography and videography. What kind of equipment does a student need to have to take the class?
So first off, they really do need to have a couple of things of their own. I really want to push students, if they're serious about this, that they should have a couple of things to be able to continue working after the class. So they need their own DSLR, and that can be, you know, an entry-level DSLR to, you know, whatever they want to, as high as they want to go on them. They can range anywhere from an entry-level one, which is about anywhere from 150 to 300 bucks to, you know, you can spend thousands of dollars on a camera, just depending on what you want to get. They need to have their own tripod. Again, I'm trying to make sure that they're set up to go out and do the work afterwards. A speed light is not required, but it's recommended, so that they understand how to use flash. If not, I can provide a flash for in-class demonstrations for them to use. And then they need to have their own laptop, because in this age, we are not going into the dark room anymore. We are in a digital dark room, so to speak. And that means access to the Adobe Creative Suite, specifically Lightroom. Lightroom Classic, if you really want to get really specific, Lightroom Classic is the one that I recommend, especially when you plan on working with clients. You need to understand how to watermark your images, how to protect your IP. This makes it really, really simple. And we walk through that in class. So the basics are your own camera, a laptop, a tripod. Those are the basic things that you need to have. And then when you come to my studio, I have a few extras, right? I have some lighting that they won't necessarily have on their own, right? That we can show how to set up these different lighting setups, that they'll get to use professional lighting equipment, backdrops, reflectors, bounces, and things of that sort, so that they'll have access to all the different tools that they're going to need ultimately, right? Yeah. And then that's the basic general gist of it. Once they have those things, they'll be able to go out and have those things make a return on investment for them. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that when I see, I had a student, I say maybe 3 classes ago now, that really just went all in, and he came in with a Sony AS2. He ended up getting a Sony AS3 before it was over, and he made his money back before the end of the course. I was really impressed with how he really went after it and was implementing the things that he was learning, you know, every day. And so if you can go as far as you want with it, and that camera and tripod and laptop will really pay for themselves if you take heed and go out there and get to work.
Wow, that's great to hear. Dr. Glover, video editing, do students coming into that class need equipment, or is that something that is a part of the environment that you teach in?
Okay, so there are a few requirements for students coming in once you edit. The DSLR that Dr. Jones was talking about used to be a requirement. But we've recently changed that to where, because most people have what, this right here, right?
Yeah.
A smartphone that has an excellent camera, right? And we're spending $1,000 on these phones nowadays, whether we realize it or not. So we wiped away the requirement of having a DSLR and just say, hey, if you got a smartphone, you basically meet that requirement. But we have decided to make a laptop as part of the requirement. This is something new. We didn't before because we were in computer labs, but the requirements seem to keep expanding. I mean, Adobe just gets harder and harder on these computers. So, I had to talk with Ms. Garnett, and we say, okay, let's not worry about the computer lab and just make it a requirement for laptops. And just for anybody that's interested, if you have a PC, Adobe recommends at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you have a Mac, they recommend at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. So a laptop is required. And then the Creative Cloud, of course, that includes Adobe Premiere. And I think Jay mentioned it earlier that you do get that at a discount. It's usually $50 a month, but you get it for $19.99 as a student. So it's a pretty sweet deal. And that gives you access to everything. So if you get the Creative Cloud, you pretty much have everything you need for all of these classes we're talking about. Now, unfortunately, Pro Tools is not part of Creative Cloud, and Pro Tools is the industry standard, but Creative Cloud does have something called Audition. I think, Jay, with what you teach, right? If they were interested in Audition, it could it's easier to figure out, right, after taking your class than not having any knowledge at all, I would think.
I mean, it's a usable platform, but I see people actually doing podcasts on that a lot, but it's really doesn't fall in the list of there's people. Logic is and Studio One seem to be the two platforms that have been swimming around mostly. But I mean, think about these platforms. There's somebody using that. But yeah, I mean, the general concepts definitely to translate. What you lose is like all the keyboard shortcuts is one of the main things. In the menus, you gotta learn to navigate the menus and all the keyboard shortcuts. And outside of that, yeah, you can pretty much go from platform to platform.
Absolutely. And I will say, as an editor myself, I started off in music. So Pro Tools was where I learned as far as mixing audio. So as an editor, I prefer Pro Tools, just to be quite honest with you guys. So with Jay teaching Pro Tools, it is a nice, one thing I love about Pro Tools is that I can bring in my projects into Pro Tools, and I can do my mix, my film mix, looking at the video while I'm mixing my sound. So everything is in sync and everything is good to go. But I kind of got off there a little bit, but yes, a smartphone, a laptop, and Adobe Premiere are the 3 requirements for the class.
Thank you. No, we don't mind learning more. Okay, we never mind learning more. It's been really great talking with y'all, and so but we're within about 10 minutes of our 7 o'clock time range. So what I thought I would do, though, is I would like to just ask each of you to talk for a couple minutes about how you got doing what you're doing. We have a lot of folks in our audience students who are figuring out their journey, figuring out life, what they want to do, how they want to get there. And so I thought I would just ask each of you to say a few words. How did you get into doing what you're doing now? Was there somebody that brought you along the way? Did you face some obstacles and you ended up zigging and zagging? How'd you do it? Mr. Matheson, how did you get to be in charge of the jam room where I saw all those different switches, dials, etc., which would be completely bewildering to me. But how'd you get into that?
Well, I think all 3 of us are alumni of the Department of Media Arts. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
I come from a long time ago, but back then you could take 2 areas of concentration, and mine were black and white photography and audio. And they had, a recording studio set up there. And they didn't really expect much from their students in audio, but I became somehow the #1 audio student for for years after, because I actually was recording bands on there, things like that. But then once I got out of college, I didn't have, I wanted to play music, and I knew that I had some kind of knack for doing audio, but I really didn't want to because I wanted to play music. But then, fast forward a couple more years, and all of a sudden, I'm working a job at a grocery store or something. That's just not cutting it anymore. And so I got an opportunity to go work for a sound company because they had seen some speaker cabinets that I built. I built the speaker cabinets for my band, and so I got in it because they saw speaker cabinets that I built. So I got into that, and then all of a sudden I'm into the business at that point, and you start feeling your way around. I started doing live sound at venues for all sorts of artists, and I did live sound. And then at a certain point, I transitioned into recording. And at a certain point, I was, I started a recording studio. And at a certain point, I was able to transition out of my day job into full-time audio. And then after a while, I transitioned even to full-time recording and wasn't even doing live sound anymore.
Wow, that's a journey. That's a
It was a
journey.
lot of work.
Yeah.
You basically,
And so all of y'all came out when you said the media arts, that's over at University of South Carolina, that was your 4-year degree in media arts. And so, but obviously all of y'all also took different trajectories. Dr. Jones, how did you get to be where you are? You mentioned that you started in high school kind of being a photography buff. And so how did you, and now you own Fanatic Productions and run it. And how did that happen?
Oh, okay. I started in high school as a photography assistant. So initially, that's what I did, on the weekends to make money. So I took a photographer around. He took pictures of sports teams and, proms and different events. And I was, lugging and setting up backgrounds. And this was the days of film with heavy canisters and things of that nature. So, but eventually I started just soaking in how that business worked. And it was expensive to be a photographer. In the time I was coming up was expensive. You had to have the gear. There was a huge barrier to entry for me. And so I got into film a little bit when VHS tapes started coming out and doing some of those things and cutting that kind of stuff together. But it never seemed like a thing I could do as a career because it was just such a high barrier to entry. And weird enough, I was having a tough time in my life. I was, I had my oldest son was a baby, and I had every odd job you could think of, from an animal care technician at a monkey farm to painting motorcycles. And I really just had a passion for media. And at the time, I was a para-pro at a middle school. And the teachers there rallied around me, basically said, listen, you need to go back to school. You need to be doing something in media. And, I ended up coming back to Columbia, and, it was something that I really wanted to do, but I had always been told that it wasn't a lucrative career in South Carolina. And when I decided to come back, I said, you know what, for good, bad, or whatever, this is the path that I'm on, and I'm gonna milk it for everything I can. But I wanted to be well versed, and so when I, started my company and finished my bachelor's, I met Dr. Glover, and he was like, "Well, I'm going to get a master's," and he told me, and then he went off and did it. And I think maybe a year into his master's program, I asked him again, how was it going? And then he was like, yeah, you should have did it when I told you to do it the first time. So then I enrolled and so we've been kind of going back and forth ever since. We met in undergrad. And so he was, I couldn't just stop at one master's. I had to go and get a second one, and he was working. And then I just always wanted to know more about the industry and really be well versed in all aspects of it. I felt if I was going to have this company, that I needed to be, knowledgeable about the ins and outs of all of it. And so that's how I ended up here. It was just, continue to go to school and apply, get a little bit more knowledge and apply it to my business. And here
All
we
right,
are.
two things. One, yay teachers.
Absolutely.
Okay, yay teachers. Number two, yay friends, right? Yay for our friends.
Absolutely.
Pull us along, right? Absolutely. Well, Dr. Glover, you've gotten the kudos from Dr. Jones already. So how did you you clearly were on a path. How did you get on that path?
As crazy it may sound, is a long time ago, I had ambitions to be a rapper. I was heavily into music, and as a local artist, I tried to start my own recording studio, but Jay was kicking everybody butts. So, I was like, well, this is not going to work. But no, really kudos to Jay. The Jam Room is the premier studio of Columbia, and I'm not just saying that. They put out really, really good sign. I don't know if Jay remember, but I have a gospel rap album about Team Jesus 356, which he actually mastered.
Oh, I remember. All right.
Yeah. But anyway, I started in the music. When I got to undergrad at the University of South Carolina, it was still in music. I wanted to do audio. And I was up under Stephen Borders. I'm sure Jay knows Stephen Borders. He does a lot of sound for the Gamecocks and at the township used to be. I know he's down at the Koger Center now. And I was up under his wing, and he taught me Pro Tools. And I really, there's nothing was going to take me off the path of audio until we started doing these practical film, doing film sets in school. And I'm seeing these camera guys and the directors, and I just got interested in all. And it just kind of opened up from there. So I took the interest in kind of learning, taking the audio, but then saying, okay, I want to learn a little bit about camera. I want to learn a little bit about writing, screenwriting, and I want to learn a little bit about editing. So I just kind of stayed on that path. As Dr. Jones said, I went to, full sail to learn more and more, and kept learning, kept producing at a very low budget level. And now, I do have Out the Barns Entertainment. And we've been doing pretty well. I will say this though. I know we got to close at 7:00, and my students are probably looking at me now, but I will say this, what we have to offer in the CCE is for those people who not only want to do something to just, let's say, add a skill set, but for entrepreneurs, people who really love media and want to make their own path. That's what we kind of been talking about, right? How do we make our own path? Well, this particular program is an excellent way to start that. I know everybody can't afford probably to take every single program, but if you could, I highly recommend it. Start with Jay, go through Dr. Jones, end up with me, and you will be a very round in media aspects, especially if you're trying to start your own business. And the beautiful thing, Midlands Technical College is an accredited college, right? All this goes on your transcript. You have the certificate. It's not a certification. Let me put that out there. It's not certification, but you do get the certificates and proof of work that you understand what you're doing. And that helps you when you're trying to get clients and get out there freelance, and you can say, not only do I know how to do it, but I love this so much that I went and got educated to go even further.
Gotcha. And that's so important, right? Being able to have that documentation is what you're talking about, right? Documentation of the courses you've taken, and that portfolio and your website and your Vimeo channel, so that you can go and, like I did today, and watch some of Dr. Jones's Fanatic Productions pieces. The Harvest really got me, Dr. Jones. And I want to say it just Fanatic, FANATIK Productions. Google it. Go check out some of those indie horror pieces, and The Harvest got me. Okay, I completely thought it was something else. It's a great short film. Okay, you had me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish we had more time to talk about horror, because like I said, I know we have a lot of fans out there. But we're going to have to wrap it up for now. But say that we're going to be coming back in the future and extending this conversation. I know we've got a lot of interest out there in what y'all do. Hey, I'm interested. Y'all have gotten me thinking about how I could extend my meager skill set into some areas. And I think that's what it's all about. Becky, Ms. Garnett, could you, for those out there who are thinking, so what do students need to do to learn more about the courses, where they're offered, how to get in, etc.?
Yes, so I want to say thank you so much tonight to everybody. This has been a great learning experience for me too. I've been managing the programs for a while, but I always learn from these guys, so I really, really appreciate it. You know, you can go out on midlandstech.edu/training and go to the School of English and Humanities, and you will see full information on the audio engineering program, the photography and videography program, and the video editing program. You can also, if you see something you're interested in or you have a question and you'd really rather talk to somebody, you can call our registration staff at 803-732-0432. And we'd be happy to help you with just general questions that you may have. That's also the number if you decide you want to register and talk to somebody, you could do that, or you can always register online. We primarily have a number of these classes starting. Some are ongoing right now, and then we'll have a whole group of these classes starting back up in August, September. So it's a great time to be looking at these opportunities and the way they all interrelate and relate to each other occupationally. So we appreciate your participation tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to really thank our panelists for being with us. I did see a question in the chat. What about current students who are interested in taking these courses in addition to a current plan? Becky, the current students on the academic side can also take courses on the continuing side, right?
Yes, that's right. You, as a student on the academic side, if you're in a degree seeking program or whatever your goals are there, this is something you can do in addition to that. Most of all these classes are offered at night. And so it's really a matter of management around your course schedule and what you want to do. But our courses, you don't apply to the college. If you're interested in a class through continuing education, you can do what I said earlier, go to the website, phone calls. When you're interested and when you're ready, you can register and move forward. So it's right, you know, kind of when it's a matter of just instant ability to do it based on schedules.
Right. And I will say that, you know, we've just reorganized here at Midlands around schools so that we can have closer connection between our academic side and our corporate and continuing ed side. And honestly, I've already been looking in the state CAC. There are courses for academic credit side in these same areas. So we might be calling on skill sets and faculty, and, you know, I think the future holds a lot for us in terms of collaboration. And I know there's student interest out there. So I want to really say thank you to Dr. Glover, Dr. Jones, Mr. Matheson, and Ms. Garnett for joining us this evening. One last thing I do want to do is to say we have events coming up. And here's our school. We're in our School of English and Humanities week. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, it's a webinar. Again, you can register online at our school. There's a school week page for English and Humanities. And we've got Bread Boxes and the Virus, Conversations and Creative Responses to the Dystopian Present, features some fantastic student work, faculty performances, and student work related to the pandemic. I really invite you to come out for it. I was blown away by the video, and I think y'all are going to really enjoy it. We've got an art break with Casey Klein on Wednesday night at 5 o'clock on Facebook Live, Midlands MTC Facebook Live Special Edition, our Pandemic Prism. We've got students and faculty from English, history, writing, art, music, who are going to be talking about how the pandemic has shaped our lives. And you've already heard some of our panelists tonight talking about that. And last but not least, Friday morning, our 2021 School of English and Humanities Student Conference webinar featuring student award winners, presentations. We've got a D2L site where we now have over 60 different student works of art, works of research, works of scholarship, podcasts, you name it, it's out there. So I really want to invite folks to continue to join us this week. And I hope everybody has a great evening. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.